Hi everyone, from today we are going to talk about Python pandas. Pandas is an open source Python library providing high performance, easy to use data structures and data analysis tools for Python programming language. Python with pandas is used for a wide range of fields, including academic and commercial domains, including finance, economics, statistics, analysis. In this tutorial, we will learn the various features of pandas and how to use them in practice. This tutorial has been prepared for those who seek to learn the basics and various functions of pandas. You should have a basic understanding of computer programming terminologies, a basic understanding of any of programming languages plus. Pandas library use most of the functionalities of NumPy. It is suggested that you have go through this tutorial in NumPy before proceeding this tutorial. I will make this simple and to use a real world case to make it more easy to understand. Okay, let's get started. As we have introduced in previous courses, you may need to install Anacondas if you are in the data scientist and data analysis directions. So Anaconda is actually a Python with many other data analysis libraries and visualizations libraries. So you may directly go to the Anaconda website and choose your corresponding operating system and get different Python version. The 3+ is recommended. So after the installation step by step, you may have a Python environment in Anacondas running in your system. So you may go back to see the previous courses or take for the document for reference in the Anaconda website. So after that, you have started the Jupyter notebook and you will get those cells to input your code. So we will start from here. Here is the business background of our story. Consider if you are running a blog or magazine website, you will have good writers and wonderful articles in your website. Some company selling some household goods like tableware, furniture, lighting may want to cooperate with you. The way to cooperate is maybe someone writing some articles to introduce to the people like how to live a qualified life and introduce some different lifestyles. It can also include some goods belonging to the company. You will get some reward from the advertising. So the company want to see the effect of the advertising. We may need to seek help from our data. So let's see what the data looks like. Okay, let's get started with those two lines. So the first line means that we will to use the pandas and give it a short for name like PD. And the second line is if you want to generate some chart, you can directly to show the chart just enter the cell. If you are not using the Jupyter notebooks, you may not need the second lines. Okay, let's try to run that using some shortcuts like Shift Enter. Okay, let's import some data. First, let's see what the data looks like in the console. So our data is in CSV format, like tcdata.csv. So it is actually some plain text and including some data. So we can see the titles like ID, local code, GMTs, order fee, order cash, those columns. So we can, it is just too messy that we cannot even get a clue from that. So let's first import those data into our pandas. So we just have see the data is in CSV format, so we can create variable my data equals to pandas libraries, and some method is called read underscore. We can see there's some other data format it can support it. Now we just chose the CSVs, and then we will input the data path where your data located. So it is in data. Here is where our data is, and we just shift enter. Now we have our data located. So let's take some lines of our data to see if it is input well. So that means we just fetch 5 lines of the data. So we can see the columns are not separated. So the default separator is comma. And now we can see it is semicolon. So let's change the separator to semicolon. And we rerun that and to fetch some result. Now it is successfully shown with this a normal format. So we can see the IDs stand for the user IDs, and the locations is where the users come from, and the code stand for if it is reading articles as blogs or some other types. The GMT is the timestamp. The order fee stand for if you think the article is wonderful and you want to give some money to the writers and to express your appreciations. And the $1 or the $10 stand for the money you have gave to the writers. And the user cash stand for the situation that if you read some articles introducing some furnitures and some makeups, and you directly to buy the makeups or the things you have read in the article into from the e-commerce website, and the total money you have spent on both the blogs website and the e-commerce website. So the user cash is then for the total money. So if you want to see as a blog website owner how much money you have bring to the e-commerce company you cooperate, so you may just to use the user cash minus order fee. So that's the total money you have totally bring to the e-commerce website. That is your value to the company you have cooperate. So this is our data site we are using for these courses. So for other data format reference, we can just show you an example. Let's define a data2 equals to, we can read some JSON files because lots of reviews and the marks on the website is original data type is in JSON. So it is also a very popular data site in data analysis. So we can also just want to load a JSON file. We have cell phones JSON file. So if we directly to load the JSON file, you may see some arrows, and that means most of the JSON file, if you one line is more than one line to including all the data, you may have some parameters like we may need to add the lines equals true. So then it may not to show the error messages. Let's see some data, like also fetch 5 lines from that. Okay, we can see here's the data actually in the right format. We may just see the summaries. Sorry. Fetch 5 lines of the comments and the reviews for the goods. So we can see that. That's it in JSON file. Okay, let's go back to our own data set to see what we can do more. After we load the local CSV file to the pandas, now we are showing the 4 lines of the dataset. So let's take more lines to see what we can find. Let's say 10 lines. Does anyone notice any problems with this dataset? You can see some missing data. Probably in the original CSV file there's nothing in that field. So we can also see some testing as not a number in the order fee file. It is supposed to be a float, and there is a user ID and nothing in that field. So it turns out when we wrote this apps or web applications, we don't do any validations so that we could anybody can input any garbage you want. That is not good. We immediately have a few things that we need to clean. There is going to be some other problems because no data is ever clean. Let's fix the problem one by one. So this fix is called data scrubbing. Let's get to see some testing and not a number of fields which are supposed to be a float in the order fee column belongs to the my data frame. So if I see data dot order fee, I can directly fetch out of the column data of the data frame. So this is a series. You can use Python type method to get the data types of any variables you want. It is pandas and series. So if you're just using the metadata, you will get some data frame. We also to fetch some 10 values from the series. We are actually using the square brackets to index the values. So if you want to see how long of the data sets, not only this column, so you can use the len method to get the result. It is actually 1,199 lines of this dataset. We can use the describe. It can return a number of things based on what is in the data frame. So my data describe there only shows the user cache column, its total count and its mean values and some others like max values. So there are some other methods. We are not going to list all of them here. So we're missing some of the data. We're going to have to fix that. We can either drop those rows because they're not contributing anything, or we can try to interpolate over the strange data into normal ones. Okay, we have seen some missing values, so we're trying to figure out where the missing value is, and then we have delete them from the dataset. So I want to use the dot is now method and then boolean the indexing. And let's see what we can get. So we have the my dataset is now method. So is there, you can see there's some true in that. That means it's in that field it is now. The value is now. So we can also see some true in the timestamp column. Yeah, that's the value we made to delete from the dataset. If you only want to track the now values for specific columns, we can just, like we are going to find some timestamp which value is now. So we just input the GMTs is now. So it only retained one column and shows true for the now values. So what I can do is I can use this as a Boolean index to return the rows that which is GMT is now. So let's say my data so I have pulled out all of the rows where GMT is now right now. So if I would like to see the date type of each column of the date frame, and what we see is that using the date types method, we can see that they are all objects. The locale column makes sense that it is the object because the object is actually strings in pandas. But surely the GMTs need to be a date time object, and it would make sense if the order fees is at least some numerical type. So the user cache is, I think it is in the right types. So let's see what we can do for the data types. We want the data to be in the right format so we can analyze this correctly. First, let's inspect what's in the timestamp column. It is a GMTs because the timestamp need the datetime object. Because Python has a lot of datetime libraries and pandas, there's a lot of great stuff on top of that. So we want to use it. So if we want to see the first element of the GMTs and the first date types of the value of the GMTs, we can both print some like my data and GMT. We just want to fetch the first value, so we can use this and we can put them together and to get the result together. We want to get some types dot GMT, the first value. So we can see the first value, and it is have some date types like strings. So it is a string object. So the reason why it is the string object, because we have imported raw data from the CSVs. So if you are familiar with the CSVs, it is like really basic text file. You can open it with Excel. Usually it is comma separated, and just now we have seen it is semicolon separated data. So because it is a plain text thing, it is pretty dumb. So it cannot include some complicated data types. So just as strings and some other numeric data types. So to summarize that, we have several things to do about date scrubbing. First is the GMT column should be datetime object, not strings. Other column contains both no values and some values shows dash, and we need to clean all of them. Okay, let's try to clean it up. Let's start it from the order fee columns. It should only contains the numerical data in it. We can see there are some strings like testing and some not a number of values in it. So first we will try to convert it into the integers, some numerical data. So here is we can, in the GMTs, and then we can ignore that, we can change it into the order fee. We can, there's a 4 values is not a value in it. So first we can try to convert into the numerical data. There is Python method called toNumerical. So let's try to change my data dot order fees equals to pandas, have this to numerical. So let's directly input the column name into it. Let's see, is it really going to work? Order fee. Okay, I should write the data frame name, date, my data. So it's not going to work because there's an error message is unable to pass the string testing, because we have testing, it is actually a strings. So it's working processes. Anytime he met with a n and n, it will change it into the just ignore it, but it's have no idea dealing with the testing like string object. So anytime we have just enter to another parameters, arrows equals coerce. So that means anytime you find an error message, just dump it and turn it into n and n's. So let's course. Okay, let's do the search again. And you can see there's a still does not change of the data. However, let's see the data types, like my data, D type. So the order fee is turned into the float 64. So, but the real data does not change because we have not override the original data set. So the next thing, we are going to eliminate the n and n's. So we can start on with the easy way. Just drop those rows containing about the not a number value. So just now we have changed all the data type of order fees column into the float 64, and now we are going to eliminate the n and n rows. So let's see how can do that. So there is a method called date drop na. If using that, we can see okay, let's do this again to see if the not value is deleted. Now we can see nothing changed because we have not write those changes into go back to the data frames. So you can just let it do it in replace ways. So you can pass the parameters called in place equals true, and then so once again you are doing those order fees values, so there is no n and n's in it. So that's we successfully deleted the order fees column, not to value rows. Remember, we have some statistics like how many rows are there in the data frames. So let's see RENs and my data. So if you remember, the original number is 1199. So several rows contains NNAs are being deleted. So we can also see that not only the order fees column, some others like GMTs is also the N and N's value is also scanned. So as ID, so we can see that the drop is will apply to all of the columns. So again, let's go back to C. Fetch the 10 values. So the testing is gone and the NNAs is also gone. And we can see the index numbers from 6 and to 9. And you can consider those index numbers are primary keys in a relational database. So it will not keep it sequential. So when some rows is deleted and the index number is also deleted with the rows. Yeah, so how about the date times? The GMT columns, it should be supposed to be a date and time, a timestamp object. So it is supposed to be that. If you ever deal with the date time object, you will know that there is generally a bit of pain that you have to take the string like this and break it up into year, month, and day, and you have to drop the seconds and the microseconds because who cares? Then you got create the date time object, and then you may import those data into the BI tools. You can group by month or by weeks, so something like that. So when you deal with this problem in pandas, this is pretty easy. So let's see how we can do with those timestamp manipulations. So we just need to input my data.gmt equals pandas has a method called to date time. Input date frame and GMT. So we can run both and see that the GMT have changed into the data time 64 object. Okay, after doing that, let's do the describe again. So let's replace those lines. My data describe. So by default, that when pandas is faced with different date types, like those string object and date time float, so it will return the first numerical date types first. So we can see the order fee and user cache are returned in those data frame. You can consider it as a new data frames. What we can do is we just input the parameters to show all of the columns. So we just input the include equals all. That means you show me everything. So here's we get the IDs, locale, and code some other informations. As we have already changed the GMTs into the timestamp object, we can do a lot of interesting things. So because the data range is in the top 5 months of 2016, so we can do some statistics like let's show some data. Is timestamp smaller than is earlier than some specific time, like 2016 February the 1st. So what we can get, we will get some series that all of the columns, if it is earlier than the timestamp you have given, it will return true and the others will return false. So we have early in this courses we have introduced the Boolean index. Let's do that again. So that will show all of the data, all of the lines that happens in January. Okay, we'll do more about the timestamps later. So let's finish the date scrubbing phase. I think there is one thing left, because we have ID in the ID columns. We have some dash instead of real ID numbers. So let's do that. Let's see how many rows are contains with the dash. We will also using the Boolean index my data, and this is my data.id if it is equals to dash. So there is 3 lines contains with the ID values is a dash. Then we can delete them, and then we are finished. We will finish the this scrubbing part. So we can just try this with not equals expressions. So we may got all of those IDs not equals to dash, and we may give it back to our data frame. So let's run this again. There is no number returned, so we successfully deleted all the rows contains the dash with the ID column. Now we're in the place that our data frame is looking good. Things are as they should be, and data is ready to do some analysis on it. So let's begin to do some interesting work over our data set. Okay, let's do some interesting data analysis. So we can see there's the locale. It's actually stand for the peoples from different countries. So if you want to do some group buys or statistics to see which country contribute the most of our website or to the payment, so you can do something like the order buys. So let's say data locale, and we are using the method called value counts. So we can return statistics and with the count by the countries. So if we want to see as a bar chart, so we can use it as a plot, dot plot, and we have some kind equals it's a bar chart. Okay, so here generate a bar chart here, just enter the cell. So it's too narrow for it. Let's to refigure the size, resize the figures. So it called this size equals to, let's say 14 and 5. So it's much better. So we can see the people from the US contribute the most. It is a total testing data, and that does not mean anything. Here's another thing. If you want to know on what days were people active purchasing your your goods and going through your website. So we can analyze those kind of data according to the timestamp, like the GMT columns. Before we start, you can expect something interesting here. First, we can create a series of weekdays for each entry. So we're going to define weekdays and equals to my data dot gmt dot dt and weekday. Okay, let's see what does it look like. Weekdays. So it is about 0 stand for the Monday, and so the first column is still the total index of this data frame, and the second column is just the weekdays. 0 stand for Monday, and 1 stand for Tuesday, etc. So we can actually assign this column to our data frame. So what we are going to do is our original data frame is count my data, and we have my data to assign, and a new column called weekdays, and the value is equals to weekdays. So let's take a look at the new data frame. Fetch 5 lines of that. So we have a new column called weekdays. So we may do some group by to see what's the counts of the people visit your website by the different weekdays. So let's say weekday count equals my data and group by weekdays. So give it a count. So weekday counts. We can see it shows, because we have 6 columns, so it shows all of the columns here. So we can see this Monday, we have the most, in Sunday, we have the most people, amount of people visited our website. Okay, how about generating a bar chart? So we can use the weekday counts, weekday counts, and like get a plot kind. You may already know it's just a bar chart. So let's see what we're going to get. So why do we have all of this column here? So we don't want to do that, so we just chose one column like ID. So we can see from this bar chart that Wednesday is a tough day, right? So this is how we collect some information from those amount of people by the weekdays. As your business grows bigger and bigger, you will become to multinational companies. You will develop some business in some other countries. Some people you want to hire to take care of your business in the different regions all over the world. if you want to supervise their works, you may need some data and how they works by the different regions. So now we're going to use the country, the locale, the country informations, and classify them into different regions and to see how those regions really work according to the data. So in our data, we have locale information as stand for the countries, the short for the countries, and we didn't have the regions and countries mapping information. So we need another data set to like a dictionary, and we are using this data set to look up for the dictionaries and add the region informations in our data frame. So we will introduce another data set. It's called we can call it meta, and we also use the pandas to read this. It is also a CSV local file. We use the pandas to read the CSV files. As we tried previously, we used the pandas library, read CSV, and input the directories. We have country CSVs. So it is also a semicolon separate the CSV file for different fields. So we need a separator equals to semicolon. And then if your dataset is in some different character size, you may need to enter some encoding informations, like encoding equals to UTF-8. So let's see the top 5 of the metadata information. So this is a country of name, and it is short for the country name, and this is the region information. That's the column we want to have. So the next thing, we are trying to join those two datasets, and according to the my data, and to look up those region informations in the meta data frame. So let's do that. That would be a merge operations. So we use the pandas merge method. Then you have to write down those dataset. The first dataset is my data, and the second is the metadata. And it is how we are using the left join. And left on means you want to look up dictionary using a keywords. So in the left hand side, my data, you want which keywords you want as the locale informations. And the right hand side, metadata, we want to use the keywords in the country short. So it is country short. So when we try to see the result, so we have all of those information into one data frame. The first one is the IDs and the locale. We have the region informations in the last column. So that's the data we want to exactly we want. So we want to join data frame equals to. So this is the data set we are going to use, and we want to check it out. So in the original data set, we have how many lines. We can use the length to my data. So we have 1,179 lines. Let's check out how many lines in our newly joined data frame. They're the same. So this join operations, we have successfully performed the join operations. So next we are going to use to see the contributions from by the regions. So that's what we have. We have already done the same thing using like by countries, by weekdays. Now we're going to calculate by regions. So we're going to use the country join date frame and use the group bys, and we give it which column you are going to use as the group by. We want to group by regions and give it a count. So let's give it to another data set. Let's count df show the result in different regions, and we have some counts number. If we want to generate a bar chart to show the region's contributions, so we're using the plot method. Kind equals bar chart. Also figure size 5. So it shows all of the column. We just want maybe a specific column of that, because they're in the same value. We have just saw the chart. We have just saw the tables. And we want to add some columns like IDs, so it only shows one specific column statistics in this chart. So that's basically how we manipulate different data set. And we have my data, and we have a metadata for lookup for the regions. So that's basically what we are going to do if you're deal with the different data set. This is just a quick start using a small data set of Python pandas. We can do a lot of more data transforming, scrubbing, visualizations using these powerful tools. It is also can help to understand data manipulations on distributed system like Spark, because Spark SQL is also using some concept like the Python pandas, data frame, data set, something like that. If you're learning the Python pandas, data frame, data types, it will also help you to understand some Alibaba Cloud Max Compute Python SDKs. It is also including the data frame APIs. So it is popular for both local data manipulations or on distributed system or on the cloud. So you may start your own Python pandas journey and have a good time with that.